I was going to say something before I forget. We came up with caps. You know, I was telling, Prof said nobody admitted less than 180 in the previous year. Habba. Why are we regularizing? Federal university close to University of Lagos, close to Lagos, I won't want to mention them, submitted 4,000 names for regularization.
Maybe you should mention names.
No, it is not for me to mention names.
Why shouldn't you mention names? Is this
so
something,
for Prof to
just
say,
a moment, is this something that universities should be embarrassed about?
You see, what we want to do this year, why we even supported this reduction is that, look, we are going to be on our feet. We will keep the gate closed. We will ensure that nobody does anything under the table. We've introduced CAPS, Central Admission Processing System. This Central Admission Processing will give the candidate the opportunity to track down admission processes in such a way that, just like when you send your mail, you send something through the courier, you track at each point as it's going. You are going to track admission. For instance, I apply University of Lagos as a candidate. I'm going to track to see who University of Lagos admits. If for any reason I have 280 and somebody is admitted with less than what I have, and I have my O levels, I will track and I will raise, there's a provision for you to raise query, and we will respond to it. We made that provision. What we're trying to see, we're trying to...
Which is a good innovation, definitely very commendable. But you have said that you are not going to name names. And you're not answering my question as to whether or not this is something that universities who go behind, who have admitted students below the cut-off mark, set by Jamb and all the other stakeholders, come behind to try and regularize them.
No.
Why are you not naming them?
No.
Is this something...
No. We've said...
Just a moment. Is this something that they should be embarrassed about?
No. We've said that, look, from now upwards, go and sin no more. All your sins are forgiven.
In other words, they were sinning when they were regularizing.
Yes, because you are not doing what the law says you should do. I'm telling you that we received average of 2,000 every day. 2,000 every day. It's not something that we should be proud of.
So you agree?
2,000 from federal universities, state university, across board.
You agree then that 120 is actually something we shouldn't be proud of too as a country?
You see, admission is a process. Admission is a process. Let me ask you this question. If for any reason, God forbid, I told you, I say it's not a pass-fail exam. Parameters for admission are determined based on available, whatever statistics that is presented at the stakeholder meetings. If for any reason we have 10 universities who, for any reason, nobody applied to them with a score up to 150, are we saying those universities should close shop? Sorry, I've not finished my question. I've not finished my question. I'm not finished. Are we saying that universities don't have capacity to turn people around and make them what they want them to be?
Dr. Fabian, the two questions that you have asked, I've also turned them back to you. And I've asked you, when you talked about cut-off marks, that this is not a pass-fail exam, I have asked you why it is that we should even have cut-off marks at all. If it's not a pass-fail exam, then perhaps it should be open. Let every university determine what it is that they want to admit. If they don't have students, they can as well go to the very bottom of the rung. If you score as low as 20, we will admit you.
It's a guide.
After all, it's supposed to be...
It's a guide.
You have answered that. You said it's a guide.
Yes.
So that already puts into question whether or not this is really a pass-fail exam. And then you also talked about universities who do not get any applications or are not able to admit as a result. Shouldn't we question whether those are truly universities? If, as a country, we are questioning the fact that we do not have enough spaces... Just a moment. I'm not done with my question. We're not able to accommodate as many students apply for Jamb each year, and yet some universities are lying fallow. Shouldn't we question why those universities are lying fallow? Why is nobody applying there when people are looking for admission spaces?
You see, we have a peculiar situation, and we're working round the clock to ensure that we change those narratives. One of the challenges we're trying to address is that every candidate that applies to Jamb wants to go to a university. It's not supposed to be so. For every candidate that applies wants to go to university. The second one is that a reasonable chunk of them wants to go to University of Lagos, Ilori, ABU, Ife, and stuff like that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong. The question is, how do we ensure a spread? There are candidates that, even if you say you're going to give the admission at University of Abuja or elsewhere, they wouldn't want to go. They are on, if not Lagos, nothing else. And some have been writing Jamb for the past 5 years for a particular program, if not medicine, nothing else. These are peculiar challenges. And you see, in arriving at whatever policy that we bring on the table at the stakeholder meeting, we consider a lot of things. Prof, he said some things. We are sitting, we are at the edge. Everything flows to where we are. And we are seeing this thing, we are seeing these challenges. And it will be wrong of us to come out and begin to deceive Nigerians. We have to tell Nigerians the truth, that this is what is there. If we want to move ahead as a nation, we must bring this thing to the table and say, look, this is a problem. But what we are assuring Nigerians is that, look, from 2017, nobody will do any admission through the back door.
Let's quickly go to Lagos now. I'm sure that Prof will definitely have a response.
Just before Prof responds to that, Dr. Fabian Benjamin, I'm really curious because it seems to suggest to me that your explanation for the justification of 120 is predicated on some schools that are unable to bring in more students or are depleting in the number of applications into those schools. And as a matter of fact, perhaps those schools have their lecturers fleeing. Do I get the sense that that's what you're referring to?
Okay, it looks as though
okay,
we lost him.
We'll get back to Abuja at some point. But do you get a sense that perhaps that's what's playing out here?
You see, let us also not shy away from some dynamics in the country. Because of insecurity, because of kidnappings, many parents don't feel comfortable sending their children to where their eyes cannot reach. They would rather keep their children at home. And there are universities where lecturers, because of insecurity, because insecurity can be anything, kidnapping, herdsmen, rustling, and all that, where lecturers are living in droves. Because it's better you are alive and be meaningful to your family than you want to become a martyr. Anyway, nobody will canonize you or make you a martyr in Nigeria. We have to also look at the fact that whether we want to accept it or not, our educational system is crying for help. It's crying for help. Insecurity has come to disturb our normal system in some places. If a university used to have 5,000, 6,000 students intake, and are now having 500. By the way, his extreme example of no university getting an applicant is not, we would like to see that data.